Chapter 15. Aven wondered if they'd made the right choice. Was it wise they'd gone their separate ways? Wasn't there strength in numbers? But they'd all been anxious to get home, find out if their families were all right. Luke and Nat lived on the opposite side of town while Aven and Theresa lived in the East End. It was only logical that they'd split up in two groups and go their separate ways. It was daylight now. The earthquake had subsided long ago, and the zombies had disappeared. It was safe to roam the streets again, or as safe as it could be considering everything. He'd taken another painkiller right before he and Theresa had set off almost an hour ago. He could barely feel the pain in his side and in his head. "Where do you think they went?" Theresa asked while she made her way around the deep crevice in the asphalt. "Where did who go?" "The people." He shrugged. "I don't know, maybe they're hiding in their houses afraid the zombies will attack them." "No, I was talking about the zombies." "Did they just vanish?" "I hope so," he said, although deep down, he knew they hadn't seen the last of them. Perhaps these creatures were sensitive to the light? That would certainly explain why they suddenly abandoned their station in the movie theater. Come sundown tonight, they'd surely come out and play again. Don't you find it weird that no one has left? There are no police, no ambulances, no one. It's like all of civilization disappeared off the face of the earth, Theresa remarked. Do you think the zombies killed them all? She'd gone suddenly pale at the thought. He shook his head emphatically. No, don't think like that, Theresa. If that were the case, we'd be dead too. I don't know. I just hope. She suddenly stopped dead in her tracks. Her eyes widened. She was terrorized. What is it? Aven asked, looking in the direction she stared. There were two dead bodies in a car. Both had been decapitated. Their heads rested on the dashboards. Their glazed eyes kept rolling from side to side. Black tar oozed out of their mouths. "Oh my God," Theresa said, turning away. Aven's stomach lurched. Pungent. Vile bile rose into his mouth. He almost gagged. He walked away from the horror, as did Theresa. "That's how zombies look?" she asked, her voice barely louder than a whisper. "I guess. They didn't look that bad in the dark. Were they like us before something happened to them?" she asked. "I don't know." He began to wonder. Were the monsters in the car zombies to begin with, or had they changed after they died? And had they been decapitated while still human, or after that? It was all too disturbing to think about it. He jutted his chin up ahead. "Why don't we check your house first? Then mine." She sighed, nodding. She walked silently up the stairs to her porch. Aven could see her hands were shaking. She twisted the doorknob and looked at him nervously. "It's unlocked." That was not a good sign. If her parents were in there, they would have kept their doors locked. They slid the door gently open and tiptoed inside. Theresa headed straight to the kitchen. They passed the living room, which was empty. The kitchen was vacant as well. A cup of cold chamomile tea rested on the table. Aven could see Theresa's eyes misting. "What's wrong?" he asked. "Something happened to them," she mumbled between sniffles as tears trickled down her cheeks. "Why do you say that?" "Because my mom would never leave a cup out like this. She's a neat freak. It would have driven her crazy. Well, last night wasn't any ordinary night. There was a major earthquake, and then zombies were on the loose. I'm sure cleaning up was the last thing on your mother's mind." She exhaled forcibly. "I guess." The window in the room was shattered and items in the pantry were scattered all around. There were numerous cracks in the terracotta, ceramic floor tiles. They continued to probe throughout the entire house, only to realize it was empty. "Your parents probably went somewhere safe or to family where the earthquake didn't hit," Aven suggested. She worried her lower lip and whispered, "No, they would have come to get me before they do that. Something bad happened to them." He rubbed her arm in support. "Don't think that, Theresa. It was impossible for them to have tried to come to you last night. They would have waited until it was safe to travel this morning, just like we're doing now. Who knows? Maybe they made their way to the movie theater looking for you while we were walking here. And our paths never crossed." Her expression brightened. "Yeah, maybe they did that. God, I pray they're all right." She motioned to the back door. "Come on, let's check your house out now. Then we'll head back to the movie theater to search for my parents." Aven agreed with a nod, but deep down he was scared to death of what he'd find over at his place. Were his parents in there? Were they alive and safe? Or would he be greeted by their dismembered, zombified bodies?
Chapter 16. All case scenarios swirled in Theresa's mind. Not knowing exactly what happened to her parents left her numb. Were they dead? Had they been turned into the undead? Or were they scouring the town looking for her? It was quite overwhelming. Glancing at Aven as they made their way to his home, she noted his clenched jaw and how he kept his hands fisted tightly by his side. She wanted to reassure him like he had done to her, tell him his parents were alive and well and that everything would work itself out. But she couldn't, because if she did raise his hopes and something bad happened, then it would make things worse. Sometimes it was best not to say a word and just be there if and when a friend needed you. Aven wasn't a friend per se. They'd barely spoken to one another in the past. But somehow, she felt a kindred spirit in him. They were both different and alike in a multitude of ways. When they marched up the steps to his porch, he huffed. He leaned his head back and stared at the bright sun, as if basking in its sunshine would give him strength. He then hesitatingly tried the door. It was locked. He breathed a sigh of relief. It was obviously a positive sign. He searched in his pants pocket before retrieving a house key. Opening the door, he shouted, "Mom, Dad, you here?" No one greeted him. He pursed his lips and frowned, gazing at her. "Help me search, please." "Sure." She walked toward the other side of the house where the bedrooms were. Aven's house seemed to be unscathed from the earthquake's wrath. It had apparently been merciful here. She headed back to the hallway, saying, "There's no one in the rooms." "The kitchen and living room are empty too," he said while he stared distractedly at a paper in his hands. "What is that?" she asked. "It's a note my dad left me. It says they went to a shelter. Apparently, someone from the army was patrolling the neighborhood this morning and told them to come with him. My dad left me the address and told me they would be waiting for me there and that he hopes and prays I'm all right. They were worried sick about me when they came home last night, and I wasn't here. They didn't know you were going to the movies?" "Nope." My mom would have flipped. I was supposed to be resting and healing, but I was going stir-crazy at home. She nodded. "Yeah, especially after what happened. I'm sure they were really worried about you." "We have to go there right away," he stated. "I don't know. What if my parents come back here?" "No, I think your parents are at the shelter, too. My dad wrote the soldier was patrolling the neighborhood, so he probably convinced your parents to go with him, too." The knot restricting her heart loosened slightly. "You think so?" He nodded emphatically, staring into her eyes. "I say we make peanut butter and jam sandwiches to go, grab water bottles and head there right after that." She smiled meekly. "Okay, let's do it." He grinned back. "We can ask the soldier to go to Luke's and Nat's place to rescue them when we get there." It was a plan. It wasn't a great one, but the best they could come up with at the moment. She prayed she and Aven would be reunited with their families there. There was strength in numbers. They'd be many at the shelter. Hopefully, there were weapons and strong barriers installed, too. Because when the sun set, she was pretty sure the undead would rise again. They'd all better be ready to fight when zombies came a-knocking.